Welcome, friends. I am Dr. V.K. Chauhan, homeopathic physician. Revise with me homeopathic remedy Medorhinum, and this is part 4 B-3 remedy in verse by Dr. K.S. Bakshi. And we are going to recall the PQRs given in Ellen's keynote, and this will be a very good study for BHMS students, interns, house physicians, and likewise the professionals at large who are in love of reading materia medica and comparing it with different materia medicas. So friends, let us go ahead. We go to the first couplet. Here Dr. Bakshi tells us the first line: Medorrhinum is stiff, puffy, achy, sore and rheumatic. Its complaints belong to a constitution psychotic. And here this particular couplet comes from the PQR 9 introductory section. You can see the arthritic, rheumatic soreness all over as a bruised and similar remedy. Please recall arnica and eupatorium. And then second line is sequelae of suppressed gonorrhea. And here we have certain remedies like clematis, so it is for recall. We go to couplet number 2, diseases of the spinal cord and its membranes. To all of them, Medorrhinum often pertains. And this is from PQR2 introduction section. And the corresponding lines: number 1 deals with diseases of spinal cord and its membrane, and even organic lesions ending in paralysis. And second line, which can be traced to psychotic origin. It means there is a past history of gonorrhea or suppressed gonorrhea or family history of gonorrhea has been there. We go to couplet number 3, for women with chronic ovaritis and selphingitis, various growths of uterus and pelvic cellulitis. Here it comes from PQR 3 introductory section, and the first line: for women with chronic ovaritis and selphingitis we can see here, and second line: other morbid growths of the uterus, pelvic cellulitis. So other morbid growths of the uterus include fibroid and cyst and malignancies with or without psychotic origin. Either it is spontaneous, you can say mutation in soric constitution, or there is a sensitization with psychotic origin, means gonorrheal stigmata is there. We go to peak, uh, couplet number 4, children pale, rachitic, dwarfed and stunted, weak and dull and mentally blunted. Information is coming from PQR 6 introductory section, and here we can see the different color code: children pale, rachitic, dwarfed and stunted in growth. And here we have the corresponding remedy for comparison: Beraita carb, and second line: mentally weak and dull. We could do couplet 5, great soreness with enlargement of lymphatic glands, and it is coming from PQR 7. Here we find the PQR tells us great heat and soreness with enlargement of lymphatic glands all over, burning of hands and feet, and wants them to be fanned. It is coming from PQR 13. Burning of hands and feet wants them uncovered and fanned. And we have two remedies here which comes for comparison: lachesis and sulfur. Couplet number 6, trembling all over and nervous exhaustion. This line comes from PQR 10, trembling all over. Please remember it is a subjective trembling, and there is an intense nervousness and profound exhaustion is there. And the second line is languor, fatigue, general depression. So consumptive languor, please remember this languor is because of tubercular infection, and there is a fatigue and great general depression of vitality. So that is the PQR 8 tells us in Allen's keynote. Now we go to the next couplet, which is seventh. State of collapse with cold perspiration, yet wants to be fanned in continuation. And here the information is from PQR 11 introductory section. And color code state of collapse with cold perspiration. Veratrum album is for comparison and want to be fanned all the time. For comparison, we have carbo veg. Now we go to the couplet 8. Forgets words, names, and can't finish a sentence. Information is coming from PQR in the mental section, and here we find reference cannot remember names, even forgets his own name. He is so forgetful, loses the thread of conversation and mental balance. This line comes from PQR 3 mental section, constantly loses the thread of conversation. Now we go to the next couplet, which is ninth. For his memory poor we may not blame, but how strange he forgets his own name. It is coming from PQR 1 mind section. Weakness of memory, the first line, and last line was even forgets his name. So we go to the couplet number 10. Great difficulty when symptoms are stated. Question to his embarrassment has got to be repeated. And here we find both the lines are coming from PQR 4 mind section. The first line is great difficulty in stating her symptoms, and second line question has to be repeated as she loses herself. Friends, the next couplet is 11th. Cannot speak at all without some weeping, and this information is PQR 5 mind cannot speak without weeping. And then we have the second line anticipates death like aconite, which he is repeating. It is coming from PQR 6 mind section. Anticipates death, always anticipating, feels matters most sensitive before they occur and generally correctly. So Medorhinum has a premonition of coming events. Now we go to couplet number 12. His time passes too slowly, and here we find reference PQR 9 mind section. We have time passes too slowly and corresponding remedies. Please let us recall alumina, argentum nitricum, and cannabis indica. Is impatient, anxious, and in great hurry. We find in PQR 8 mind section, patient is anxious, nervous, extremely sensitive, starts at least sound. He has got very jumpy because he anticipates something bad going to take place. And PQR 10 tells us in a great hurry, when doing anything is in such a hurry that she fatigued. We have now the couplet number 13. There is intense burning pain in brain, and the information we find in PQR1 head section. Intense burning pain in brain, which is worse in cerebellum extending down the spine. And head is drawn back as if with a chain. So we find head feels heavy and it is drawn backwards in PQR2 in head section. Couplet number 14 tells us about coryza with loss of taste and smell. And here we find reference to throat section PQR1 sensations as if had taken a severe cold. And second line mucus from posterior nares has to expel. And we find PQR2 throat section. Throat constantly filled, thick, grey or bloody mucus from posterior nares. and comparison is hydrastis here. We go to the next couplet 15. Ravenous hunger soon after he eats. With China, Lyco, Suriname, it competes. Here it is a comparison also, and we find the reference in appetite section PQR number 1, and here ravenous hunger immediately after eating, and in bracket we find all corresponding remedies like China, Lyco and Suriname. Here we go to the couplet number 16. Insatiable craving for alcoholic drinks. Given, give him in gallons and he never shrinks. So we find in appetite section PQR3. Here Ellen writes, insatiate craving for liquor which before she hated, like and similar remedy you will find asaram, and for salt calcarea natrum, sweets like sulfur, for La ice acid orange and green fruits. So here we have reference only for liquor. We go to couplet number 17. His liking for things sweet or salty, he never shows any partiality. And again we can recall appetite section PQR3, his desire for salt, sweets, and insatiate craving for liquor also we can correspondingly keep in mind. We have couplet number 18, where stool, clay like, sluggish, tenacious, cannot strain, least rectum prolapses. And we find in bowel sections PQR1, stool, tenacious, clay like, sluggish, cannot strain from sensation of prolapse of rectum. And here we have a remedy for comparison alumina. Friends, let us go to the couplet number 19. Sometime he gets ball-like stools because of constriction and inertia of bowels. And here we have reference from bowel section PQR2. Constriction and inertia of bowels with ball-like stool. Corresponding remedy for ball-like stool is lachesis. We go to the couplet number 20. To pass a stool, he has to backward recline. And vowels PQR3 tells us, yes, can only pass a stool by leaning very far back. And moisture from the anus is fitted like fish brine. And here we find in vowels PQR4, oozing of moisture from anus, fitted odor with or fish brine, and we have corresponding similar remedies. Please don't forget causticum and Heper. Now we go to the 21st couplet. Severe pain is felt in renal region and better by passing profuse urine. Here we find PQR1 urinary section. Severe pain, especially backache, felt in the renal region, and it is better by passing profuse urination, and we have corresponding remedy lycopodium. Couplet number 22. Intense cutting pain in ureter and sensation of passing renal calculus. We find information in urinary section PQR2. Renal colic, intense pain in ureter with sensation of passage of calculus, which we find similar remedy berberis lyco ossimum canum. And we have couplet number 23. Is effective for children in nocturnal enuresis if a history in the family is that of psychosis. And we go to the urinary section PQR3 and we find nocturnal enuresis passes enormous quantity of ammonical high colored urine in bed every night, worse by overwork or overplay, extremes of heat or cold, and when best selected remedy fails with history of psychosis. Couplet number 24. Menses very dark and profuse with clots. Difficult after wash to remove the blot. And here we come to PQR1 in female section. Menses profuse, very dark clotted. Stains are difficult to wash out, and we have corresponding remedy for comparison, magnesia carb. Friends, let us go to the couplet number 25. Intense menstrual colic draws of her knees from labor-like pains to get a little ease. And here we go to female section PQR3, intense menstrual colic with drawing up of knees and terrible bearing down labor-like pains must press feet against support as in labor. Aphorism we find, next couplet we find 26. Pruritus of labia and vagina too much. It is female PQR4 section. Intense pruritus of labia and vagina, worse by thinking of it. And breasts are tender and cold as ice to touch. Comes from female section PQR5. Breast and nipple sore and sensitive to touch. Now we go to the couplet number 27. Asthma caused by a spasm of glottis. And here we find reference in respiratory PQR1 asthma, choking caused by weakness or a spasm of epiglottis. Cough is better by lying on stomach, and it comes from cough better by lying on stomach, respiratory section PQR4. And couplet number 28. Dyspnea intense but easy to inhale due to sense of constriction difficult to exhale. And here we find respiratory section PQR3. Dyspnea, sense of constriction, can inhale with ease but no power to exhale like Sambucus. So this is a classical description of asthma. It is dyspnea because of asthma. And when we have difficulty in inhaling and to exhale it is easy, it is a cardiac asthma. We go to the couplet number 29. Deep hollow cough like coughing in barrel, and information we get respiratory PQR4, cough dry incessant like coughing in barrel, which is deep and hollow. Fidgety feet and legs cannot keep them still, and it is coming from back and extremities PQR7, where we find lower limbs ache all night, prevent sleep, intensely restless and fidgety feet, leg and feet. We find similar symptom in zincum. We go to the couplet 30. Deformity of finger joints, large flurry knuckles, swelling and painful stiffness of ankles. And here we trace the information in the section back and extremities PQR 16. Deformities of finger joints, large puffy knuckles, and there is a swelling and painful stiffness of ankles. We go to the section couplet number 31, and here aching in legs, still he cannot keep, especially when relaxing in trying to sleep. And here again information is coming from back and extremities PQR9, and aching in legs with inability to keep them still in bed, and when relaxing is trying to sleep. we have couplet number 32. Mostly aggravated from daylight to sunset. And this is coming from aggravation section in Allen's verse, from daylight to sunset, rivers of syphlinum, and better at seashore and lying on stomach. It comes from amelioration section at seashore, rivers of natremure, lying on stomach, damp weather, causticum noxomica. So Allen's keynote give us all that information. So friends, thank you very much for your kind watching and listening patiently. Please remember, sharing is caring.